We're with GNU.
We are.
Yeah,
we are.
I'm not sure why it's called that.
It's called Government of National Unity.
Why?
And I just saw a letter now from the president to John Steiners, and things are not looking good. I did not expect the ANC to lose power in these election cycles.
And from your perspective, do you think it's a good idea for the ANC to be with the DA?
The ANC is not supporting black people. The ANC is not on the side of black people. It's a white monopoly capital.
Hello, I am Lindiwe Matlali, your host for Cocktail and Blurbs. Welcome to this exciting episode with my very good friend, Yonela Diko. We are going to be discussing GNU and other things. He's educated, apparently. Sometimes I wonder. But Yonela is a UCT graduate. Most of you will know him. He used to be the spokesperson for Mam Lindiwe Sisulu. He is an avid writer for EWN. He is a commentator, is really somebody who's really smart, or so he thinks. But anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, my friend.
It's a
I'm
pleasure.
really excited to have you, and also grateful for your support.
Absolutely.
Of Cocktail and Blurbs. You have not been sharing it as much on your social media, but that's a conversation for another day.
Now that I'm here, then I'll share.
My first question, what's your favorite cocktail and why?
I'm not really a cocktail person. I'm a whiskey person. So Glenmorangie, Glenfiddich, all the Glens you can
cocktail
think of.
is for people abangatako.
However, I mean, when I'm outdoor, I like mojito, pina colada, but generally I prefer whiskey.
Okay. No, I've seen you. I've seen how you post them on social media. And I'm saying, just walking outside with your bottle. I'm like, oh.
And a Cuban cigar. You've been writing a lot.
Let's before we talk about all the other things, politics and stuff, let's talk about your career. And tell me, who is Yonela Diko? Who are you and what makes the man?
Yeah, I like to say my career really has an extraordinary range. Mm-hmm. So when I was done with UCT, I went into the private sector. I worked for a company called NBC Holdings. They're a retirement fund company. They invest retirement funds. Sister company to Alexander Forbes, the director who started NBC, used to be at Forbes. So I started there. Then when I was done there, I did a bit of research at Wits. So DTI had a sponsored unit to research S2Ep5, Industrial Policy Action Plan, within the School of Economics at Wits. Mm-hmm. So I joined them there briefly, did the research for S2Ep5 Then, I think there was always a sense in me that I could be doing more. So I'm sitting in my desk in an office in Sentin. I'm like, what am I doing here? It's just month after month, paycheck after paychecks. It felt like there's something bigger I could be doing, So when I first wrote my article in 2009, really a period of seconds, I think 2008, where you had, I think Talimpofe at the time was the chairperson of the SABC board. He will be fired today, comes back to work tomorrow, be fired again, and then the deputy minister was fired. And I grew up in a small town where if you were, say, a magistrate, you were the most respected person. Now suddenly, people that are even higher than magistrates are just getting fired and moving up and down. So I felt a certain sense of, there's a sense of dishonor on people that I thought have always been sort of holding country's values, being symbols of greatness. So I tried to write something. So it got published on Business Day, I think, as I said, 2009. Then I was like, whoa.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Looks like people want to hear what I've got to say.
Yeah.
From then on, I then started writing. I then decided, instead of just maybe just advising people, let me join politics. I think I can make more of a difference there. So I became a member of the ANC in Rondebosch, Cape Town. From then on, I participated. Then I volunteered at the provincial office, I think during 2012, 2014. Then continuing to publish, then the provincial secretary, then Songazom Jongile, the late, called me saying, we love the work that you, would you like to work for the ANC full time? I'm like, nah, I'm busy with academics. It's like, please, we're elevating in a way. So we want people who are thought leaders, writers, people who can communicate. Yes. So I thought about it. Then, of course, I decided to join the ANC as the communications officer back in, I think it was 2015, I think. Then, of course, up until 2020. Then after that, of course, I got a call from the Department of Human Settlements. Then, of course, I was interested. So I was interested in taking on the spokespersonship of in the ministry to Minister Lindiwe Sisulu. So again, it was an endorsement that, I seem to, because I think to me, the biggest challenge has always been every single day, each department is doing work, each SOE is doing work, but the ability to put that together, profile it, and then let it out into the world, it was slow. And I felt that, they used to say the Democratic Alliance sometimes sends 22 statements in one day. Because they know journalists are lazy. Sometimes journalists don't want to go to college to get a story. If you just keep pumping statements, then you end up having a lot of coverage. Why? Because they are just pumping in. You publish 2, publish 3 of that 20, but continue to publish. So the ANC, I felt, doesn't do that with so much work such that it loses ground in terms of in the communications.
And the assumption is, or rather the perception is, no work is being done.
No work is being done, and which was upsetting. I remember when I joined the Department of Human Settlement and Water and Sanitation, I'm like, guys, I need an audited report, or even if it's not audited, of what's happening. How many projects are underway? How many have been finished? Have contractors been selected? Just give me a map it off for me. How's the department? No, we don't have that kind of information available yet. I'm like, what? You are a department, you've been working for years, you can't map it out the country for me that Mzimvubu is under construction, they are 2 months in or 3 months in, what's missing is this. Give me,
Yes.
So I felt that without that type of information, even the ANC as the ruling party, which should be fed this information to then either in posters, keep releasing, we've just created 300,000 people have access to this, or those type of information, just keep putting it out. So that was the law for me to come into the communication space, and I think I've done fairly well.
No, you have. I mean, that's how I got to know you, by reading the sometimes. No, I've really enjoyed reading your work. So now we are at a very critical time. I don't think, for me, I'd never thought we could be at a point where in my lifetime ANC izoba la ikhona. I was telling what's happening. Is it a government of national unity? There's some interesting words that people have seen using, but
no. Look, before let me answer it this way. First of all, I did not expect the ANC to lose power in these election cycles for 2 reasons. The first one is that it would take a huge amount of electoral decline for ANC to lose power if we look at the precedents. Now, the first decline that happened was 2009, 3%.
Yeah.
The second decline was 2014, 4%. Third decline, 2019, 5%. That's as much as we've lost. Now, mind you, in 2009, the confluence of events there, economic crisis 2008, we lose 1 million jobs just in 2009 alone. Polokwane conference, very divisive, which leads to the formation of COPE. Then, in a way, you've got all these events, but we still lost 3%. Into 2014, another confluence of events. You've got Youth League being suspended, then they form EFF, which of course take a huge chunk. You've got Secure in Comfort report of Thuli Madonsela Nkandla, which came a month before 2014 elections, which also had its own impact. Again, we moved from 66 to 62, 4%. So the idea that, for me, at a time when I felt we have a president, not perfect, but maybe besides Phala Phala, he's not moving from scandal to scandal as the other one. And there was a sense of a turnaround that I felt. To then, in that period, lose a whopping 17%. It's something that with scholars one would have to discuss further. It's an interesting phenomenon for me. However, the decline has been there. So,
but I mean, the question that I'm asking, has it been a decline though? Because for me, when I look at it, is that I don't see it as, because what has happened is the formation of MK from an immediate president who decided, right? Yeah. So basically, the people who supported him went with him. Yeah. So technically, those were ANC votes.
Now, I agree with that, but I think for you to be able to sell the story that let's go out, there has to be a conducive environment for that to happen. Now, in my view, the political fortunes of the ANC have always been tied directly with the economic fortunes of the country. At our peak of economic growth, 5.5% 2004, we're also at our peak of ANC political fortunes at 69.99%. So the ANC has lost a lot of electoral support beginning in 2009. And yes, in the main, it's been breakaway parties. Breakaway of COPE took some percentage. Breakaway of EFF took some percentage. Breakaway of MKP now took some percentages. Now, the biggest selling point of those parties, especially EFF and MKP, is that the ANC is not supporting black people. The ANC is not on the side of black people. It's a white monopoly capital. However, Ramaphosa's policies are similar to Mbeki's, but if you look at Mbeki, the economy was growing so much, labor absorption was so high, labor participation was so high, GDP per capita was so high. So you had an economy that was absorbing people into jobs, showing people that not only are you coming into jobs, but there's upward mobility, people were going into new professions, people were getting into spaces that blacks are becoming minorities. So it's difficult to sell a party that is not for black people when black people are being absorbed by the economy. The key requirement for you to sell pain, to sell injustice, to sell that people are not being done, is when the economy is not doing well. You can sell anything and people may buy it. But when the economy is doing well, it's almost a shield that, yeah, we hear you, but we've got jobs. We're moving up, we're buying houses, we're buying cars, which is the economic environment that was there under Mbeki, which of course, as I said, got crushed in 2008. And since then, except China, economies have really struggled to recover.
I don't know, I could listen to you and you say, So we are here now, right?
Yes.
And we're with GNU.
We are.
Yeah, we are. I'm not sure why it's called that.
It's called Government of National Unity.
Why?
Because it's a model that seeks to separate from coalitions. Coalitions just say, me and you, because I've got 40, you've got 20, can we just form some coalition, work together? But GNU is, can we invite everyone to just come and be part of government? Those who are willing, if we can find each other, to sort of dilute your influence. If you thought you've got influence, when I bring 10 people, then suddenly you're like, no, I want to do that. I'm like, okay, fine, cool. Which is what's happening now. The DA has been flexing their muscle, but the ANC has collected so many partners that they've reached that 200 mark that even if the DA leaves, the ANC will still have majority with the rest of the parties. So which means
but also it will be a very tight majority.
It will be a tight
if one of them says, you know what, this is not working for me, it's
absolutely
over.
It's a risk. But let's put it this way. The Government of National Unity has got advantages and disadvantages. The first advantage, of course, is that when you bring 10 people in a space, you've got 10 possible ideas. So there's a diversity of ideas. And when you bring 10 parties into the space, which is a second advantage, then the people who support you and you and you and you suddenly feel represented in this particular space. And the third one, of course, is that, again, when you bring 10 people, you almost push things towards the center in a sense that When the far right wants to pull things to the far right, they get pulled back. The far left get pulled back. The compromise tends to be in the middle. So you avoid excitement, you avoid radicalism when you are in a government of national unity, because not one party just pushing. Say if MKP won everything, they would push to a particular direction. If EFF, they would put to a particular direction. The disadvantage is instability, as you said.
Yeah,
if one person is not happy.
Yeah, but what I was about to ask you as well, Guti, you know, you've got 10, if you like that, you bring 10 leaders.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to see isiZulu City in sort. So then you have all these strong individuals, leaders in their own rights, now having to submit.
True. Yes, that's a risk, but it's sort of countered by the fact that power is diffused to 10 people instead of being 2. If the other guy just says, I don't wanna agree with the budget, then you're in trouble. But if out of the 10, 1 or 2 says we don't, like, fine, we still have majority of 8, then we can move forward. So GNU gives the party that has sent an invite some form of muscle to say that I won't be bullied by, yes, I can be bullied by 10, but I can try to convince a few more. But if I have one partner who is belligerent, like the DA is, they can bully me at any point in time, and I would have no recourse, because that's the only partner I have. So that's the challenge with GNU. It's an unideal position for the African National Congress, which has been in power for 30 years. It's new territory. There's lots of accusations that ANC joining DA is selling out, should have joined EFF, which also wanted Ramaphosa not to be there. So it's a rock and a hard place for the African National Congress, new territory, but hopefully they will navigate it quite well.
But, I mean, from your perspective, do you think it's a good idea for the ANC to be with the DA? Especially when we've seen, like, we've got this new party, the MK, right? Like saying that, oh, you know, they're pushing a white agenda. You know, doesn't that give credence, or rather credibility, to those statements?
Now, I think, to me, the ANC already took a decision back in '94 of which path to take. So it's not about now saying, are we choosing DA or EFF? In this fashion, the question in '94 was, does the causal chain move from growth to redistribution, or from redistribution to growth? If it's from redistribution to growth, then that's sort of your EFF route, that take everything, divide the wealth among people equally, then let's see if that will cause growth. But it's from growth to redistribution. It speaks to, 1, macroeconomic stability, 2, low corporate taxes, fiscal discipline, the things that somehow the ANC, because it chose that path of growth first, then redistribute later, it actually agrees with DA. The only problem, so put it differently, the ANC agrees with DA on growth, but disagrees with DA on redistribution. With the EFF, the EFF and ANC disagree on growth, but agree on redistribution, where you put it. So it was sort of, whichever one you take, you've got similarities with the DA. So people who think that the ANC now is selling out, it's the similar accusations that SACP back then, and the COSATUs, when they call it the 1996 projects led by Thabo Mbeki, when they chose to go full throttle on macroeconomic stability, then they can...
Like, was it the GAP? Ne?
So you had Gie, Askisa, you know, those were those were so the ANC already chose its policies. Should it evaluate whether it was successful? It could say, yeah, as they've been saying, we've got 2 parts. We had first 15 years of success, then we had another 15 years that wasn't so good. So there is no sellout, more than saying, of these 2 groups, DA and EFF, which one would make us move drastically away from the policies we like? And some may even say that maybe the ones who are saying, we don't want change of policies, we want change of leadership, remove this particular person or that particular person. So it's a decision that I think the NEC is seized with, or at least the team that's negotiating. And I just saw a letter now from the president to John Steiners, and things are not looking good. So maybe this GNU with the DA as the biggest member may not work out after all.
Well, I mean, we're not, I mean, a lot of us, and I mean, I'll be one of those who are not happy. I mean, first of all, I have a problem with the DA. They flip-flop, oh, we have a coalition of what, and then we don't want the ANC, and then to people now there's a potential opportunity for power, and it's a power grab. For me, it's like, what do you stand for?
Absolutely.
You need to stand for something.
Absolutely.
Be authentic. How can we trust you when you'll change, when you think that you have a opportunity?
In fact, I thought the DA, it made more sense for them to take portfolio committees in Parliament. Then they are the opposition that says, executive come and account to us in Parliament, then they grill them. There was a talk before that they don't want to be in the executive, they just want to be in Parliament so that Parliament is supposed to hold the executive. So it's nothing new. But then the issue of blue lights, the issue of bodyguards, maybe was a bit more tempting for them. But initially, for an opposition, that would be the first place to say, we're an opposition, we want to hold the executive accountable. The best way to do it is not to join the executive, but to be on the other side that holds accountable, which is Parliament. And then when ministers go to account in Parliament, then they account to portfolio committees that are chaired. But it's not glamorous. It doesn't have benefits.
Yeah. No, but I think from their perspective as well, if you hold the powerful portfolios, then you're able to influence, right?
Sure.
So if you are in holding the executive to account, you're not influencing policy.
True.
You're not changing anything.
True.
So at the end of the day, you can't go back to your constituents and say, I've made this difference.
True.
So when they come, we've seen what's happening in KZN already. That guy where finance is having press conferences every day.
A topic for another day, the relationship between the media and the DA.
So, but where to from here? Because let me ask you, the reason why I'm asking you this is because one of the for me, the criticism that I've had with the ANC is that there's too much, you tend to be, like ANC becomes, depending on who's the leader, there's that kind of like, we're gonna support our leaders no matter what. And then you become so, like you close ranks, you can't criticize, it's that kind of thing, because when is it gonna be about the organization, right? Because if at the end of the day, like all the opposition said, we will come with you, but we don't want this leader. Would you get to the point of saying, for the sake of the organization, can we move beyond personalities? Because I think that that's the biggest problem, is that you guys just close and say, okay, that's our leader. Yeah. Conference said, even though this person is building a 200 million house.
Yeah,
you come up with new names for our
No, that's true. That's true. I think ultimately politics is a human enterprise. So it's bound to have personalities that have a pool, personalities that have poor personality cults, poor judgments. Because the one thing that, for example, I think Jacob Zuma managed to do was to appeal to the vanities of people who get given things they don't deserve, and then hold the person who gave them at the highest level. They can criticize them. I remember at some point, Jacob Zuma wanted to put a guy who had been I think he had just finished his advocacy for, he was an advocate, had just completed in 3 years, wanted to make him an NPA head. If you give a person who's undeserving work, even Mutambo actually once said that I will always love Zuma because he found me in the rural areas, wherever I was, such a girl like me, made them a minister. So when you give that to people who are undeserving, their level of loyalty to you it can't be compared even with the
you change their lives.
You change their lives,
Yeah.
So once you appeal, but people who are highly educated feel like whatever job I get, I'm deserving. Maybe I'm even getting jobs that are not at the level of they don't care, or at least they are just about the work. So I always feel like as the ANC begins to produce, even now with all the tools that are available to people who are in the system to educate themselves, as ANC produce quality comrades, then you will have comrades who say that I'm loyal to principle, I'm loyal to the organization. There's a price to pay because the leader may remove me for something I wrote in Twitter in 2010, but I'll be fine. So it's about, you're not going to just change how people feel about particular leaders who have really done well, but you're going to change as you empower people to actually say, I don't need to be in politics. Like in the US, you literally go and get begged, please leave your business. come and be a patriot and work for government. Like, no, my salary is going to be, no, forget about that. Just come and work. So we'll reach that point where we have to drag people to join government instead of now that's the only job they can get or that's the only place where they can be elevated to high level. But it's going to take time. As I said, that the political fortunes of the ANC are tied with how the economy is performing. As the economy produces good things, then it changes the picture of the ANC.
I hear you, and as I said, sometimes I feel like a lot of you're PRing me right now, but it's okay. You say you've seen a letter to Steinhuisen.
So the president is saying to Steinhuisen that firstly he condemns the fact that such a sensitive matter is being discussed through letters while it's supposed to be a face-to-face thing. So you get the DA has just decided to actually communicate through letters, then some are in Sunday Times before they even arrive at the ANC. So the president is condemning that and is telling them that this is what they're offering, and somehow Steinhuisen is asking for 2 more. They're offering them six ministerial positions. Steinhuisen, of course, it seems that when he met the president face-to-face, he agreed. Then when he went back to the FedEx, they said, no, we want 2 more. Yeah, you know, so it comes back. So the president feels that you're talking to Steinhuisen, you think he's the leader of the party, and then he goes back, and then he comes back with a different story. So president has just told the DA that we're actually talking to other people now. So if you are not taking the final offer, then just be aware that we've opened the doors most likely to
Gibela or
Siaham. So we've reached that. But I mean, it's just that South Africa, it's new to us. But delays in coalition talks are not new. In Europe especially, they are common. Sometimes they go for 300 days. You know, people just...
Are you telling us to Sebeslinde for 300
No.
days?
I'm just saying, the president actually said in the letter that he wants, by the end of this week, he wants to be done with this thing. So the TA is either in or out.
Because I mean, I've been looking at my phone, president. I heard Guti, I could be a deputy minister.
No, just wait. You've got the capacity to...
No, don't worry. I only wait on the Lord. Just telling President, if you're watching, I'm no longer available. I'm waiting on the Lord, and the Lord doesn't take this long.
Minister of the Lord.
Minister of the Lord. So yeah, no, I mean, this has been excellent. So now my final question for you,
yes,
is, you are writing.
Yes.
And I mean, I think I've seen mostly that's your passion, right? What's your next? Like, what is it, that we can see Yonela doing? Are you going back to government?
So I'm almost done with my book. Hopefully I'll be done by, it will come out by the end of the year.
That's nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Writing
it's tall order.
Yeah, that's like amazing.
I think the advantage of writing articles is that you don't need to sustain an idea for too long. You can sustain an idea for 3 pages. But for 300 pages, just keeping the theme.
Or 50,000 words.
So it's a tall order, but it's exciting. I think writing is magic. Writing, it forces you to go look for information, to research, to actually expand your thinking. So it's quite good. Business, of course, it's another endeavor that I'm getting into, which I think, as I've said, that it's important that when you get into politics, it's out of your own volition. I remember I've worked for 2 politicians now in the Western Cape and Lindiwe Matlali. It's tough, especially when you are an independent thinker, who has his own identifiable views. So it's important that you...
And sometimes I've heard with people who don't have lives. Because you can get a call anytime and drop everything.
It's the life of politics. But that's the fun part. The part that's not fun is that you are a politician yourself, and you have a certain image you would like to portray about both the ANC and its government. And then you meet, say, a politician who either is just about personal survival. Then the clash, you know.
Yes.
So I think in going back to your point about protecting brand ANC, that should be priority, you know. But sometimes people are in survival mode, that it's about protecting self, even if it means damaging the brand. So you don't want to find yourself in
it becomes about their livelihoods, right?
It really becomes about their livelihoods. So I think that, but the ultimate thing I hope that the ANC can actually appreciate, which is something we should be learning from China really, is that China has gone through dynasties. And what sustains a dynasty is how well people are doing. I used to be shocked that you can have 5 years of, you know, bleeding of jobs, you know, 0.04% if we're lucky of growth, and that party remains in power. It doesn't happen anywhere.
Yeah, but I mean,
the
story of China can go
so what I'm saying is that
because there's no democracy.
No, that's what I'm saying is that the only revolt that's enough to bring down a dynasty is if people are not doing well. So Xi Jinping is actually appreciated because he grew up poor in the poor parts of China, and his obsession is bringing the 500 million people that are still living in poor rural China into mainstream economy. So as long as the economy is doing well, you have political legitimacy. But once the economy is not doing well, then populists are going to rise. People are going to come over promising things to people. People have never seen how government works. They can come and promise you, if you vote for me, I'll take all these houses here and give it. It's things like, and people will believe it because the economy is sitting on their shoulders.
I'll build a bridge where there's no river.
You know, so it's important.
Just to create jobs.
So it's important. For the ANC's survival depends on the economic fortunes of the country.
Okay, no, I hear you. I could say a lot of things, but I mean, we have to end it here. We'll talk about some of these things offline when I'll grill you properly. So my final question for you is, if I ask this of all my guests, if you were to create a cocktail, what ingredients would you use? What would you call it, and why?
Maybe that's how I even cook. Just put everything. I can. Just put everything. And then work from the results backwards. The next time, let me cut down, move like this. But for some reason, the food is always magic. So cocktail, put whiskey, put vodka, put tonic water, then what comes, I'll be like, okay, I think the one ingredient is, then cut results backwards. You know, so that's how ideas come anyway.
Okay, I'm gonna do something. Okay, to all my viewers, especially the young people, everything he said up to now, ignore it. That's a recipe for disaster. No. Anyway, give advice to my young viewers.
You know, the one line that I use for myself on any task I'm given, I accept the challenge. Whether they say, please I've been called to go and be an MC of a 40th birthday of a person I have never met, I accept the challenge. Represent us in a board meeting, you don't even have the details you're going to get, I accept the challenge. When you do that, throw yourself into the deep end. Just tell yourself, I accept, because the reason 98% of the people have normal lives, average jobs, it's because there is a certain fear that stops them from actually taking a certain decision. Relationships, things are tough, I accept the challenge. Goals that I accept the challenge. If you accept the challenge of life, you'll go far.
Wow. Thank you so much. That has been amazing. And I can't wait to see you guys on our next Cocktail and Blurbs. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.